is Community Unity Now. And we are your hosts. This is Bill Morton, President of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce, and I am Trudy Leong, Administrator of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce. We have a special guest today. He is Rabbi Michael Ben Yosef, an advocate for victims of crime. Hello, Rabbi. How are you today?
I'm very good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us. So you have been working to end bonds for repeat offenders by the Cook County Jail Bond Court. So what kind of bonds are we talking about? Is it cash bonds, reconnaissance bonds?
Well, it's whatever bonds that the courts allow for offenders that have been responsible for violence. So that would be considered cash bail. Any bail bonds that any bonds that the courts allow or issue to offenders that is responsible for those type of situations. So we're covering all areas when it comes to that, other than people that have been wrongfully convicted or falsely accused. Those are not considered the ones we're targeting. We're looking to put in place reform, or at least propose for reform when it comes to those who are responsible for violence in the community.
Mm-hmm. And the amounts of these bonds, are they very low?
Well, of course, a lot of the bonds that we see are where people are able to get to post bail and get out.
Yes.
So they're fairly low where they're allowed to get out and post bail, and then they go out into the community to do more of the same, a reoffend. And we have several families that we have right now that has been subjected to having someone on bond that's on a bond already, and then reoffend, and then their loved ones was murdered. So this is why we're seeing this is a loophole that must be corrected. And the one that is responsible for correcting this problem is Chief Judge, the Cook County Chief Judge Timothy Evans, who we are trying to convince that this needs to be corrected immediately.
So, Rabbi, we hear about these repeat offenders all the time.
Yes.
They offend and then they come back out, and then more of the same or something else, and we see it in the news all the time.
Yes. Yes.
And is this what drives you to do your good works?
Well, of course, this campaign is called Save Our Children, hashtag Save Our Children. So this is a campaign we launched a while ago, and it is now getting to the level of where the sense of urgency is imperative, because we just ended 2021 with well over 4,500 shootings and over 800 homicides. So we've been planning all pretty much a good about 3-4 months of what we're going to be doing and targeting. And now we're starting out 2022 that campaign to address the issues. So yes, we have seen several examples of where offenders that's responsible for the violence is given like rubber stamps and getting treated like VIP, going in one minute, one out, and out the other door. So it is a problem of where we find or feel that if this is corrected, we will see a less strain on the community and putting innocent individuals at harm's way from these offenders that come out in our community to do address terror amongst people.
Do you know when Chief Judge Timothy Evans started having these low bonds? Was it sudden, or has it always been the same practice under his watch?
We believe it's the same practice. There's nothing new. It just now that we believe that now, since the violence has been spiking over the years, the statistics that the Chicago Police Department is giving I feel is faulty, because we've seen several names added to the list every weekend. We've seen the same thing over and over again: children murdered, innocent families destroyed, and for the loss of their loved one and grieving. So we believe this is just now well, we have to do something, train something. The system is not working and has not adjusted to the time that we're living in. So maybe this, what we're seeing right now, these dinosaur laws that are in place now, needs to be revised or at least eliminated to until we see do better. So we're calling for a total ban or at least a referendum, a moratorium on these bonds until things get more corrected and we see a drastic decline in this violence.
So does Chief Judge Timothy Evans have to agree to it, or is there legislation that could uh, change the way it is?
Well, that's a good question. We believe the judge has more of the jurisdiction to change whatever it is. So we're going to appeal to the federal level about this issue. We already in contact with the U.S. Senator Dick Durbin. We're also in contact with Congressman Danny Davis. Also, there's a candidate that has now reached out to us. So their political levels are reaching out to us because of they're seeing our work, inconsistent work, boots on the ground to try to get this corrected. So we're just committed to do whatever we can to minimize the amount of numbers we've seen. We just cannot have another year of 4,500 plus shootings, and we're on the brink of having more shootings when it comes to this the summer coming up, the spring is coming up. We just cannot have more names be added to the list as a hashtag of loved ones destroyed.
Do you know if it's worse in Cook County than in other parts of the country? Is it especially epidemic over here, or is it similar situations elsewhere?
Well, this is not just in Chicago. You have Baltimore, you have Philadelphia, you have Detroit. There's wherever there is impoverished areas of where the low morale and poverty is high risk. I'm sure New York has the same problem as actually does New York because last year, when during the time of 4th of July, New York seen 100 plus shootings, and the former governor Cuomo issued a state of emergency in New York, so they are on top of the list of having the same problem we're having. However, J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, refused to declare a state of emergency that will release funds into the community to bring programs to those boots on the ground, gun prevention programs that are really involved in the changing of the course of dealing with the issues we're seeing. So this is not just a Chicago problem. This is a nationwide problem. But we're calling for a sweep reform of banning or moratorium on the bonds when it comes to violent offenders immediately, because we have several families that again has lost their loved ones because of individuals that goes out and just spray gun bullets in the community. I have a family right now that their loved one was murdered when he was found. He was actually committed the crime and then admitted to murdering her loved one and then was issued a bond and now he's a fugitive. So he's on a run. So because of the bonds that's given to these individuals, they avoid going to court and coming to terms with the crimes they commit. So there are several examples that we have as families that show that this bond system is outdated and needs to be reformed immediately. And we're prepared to do whatever we need to do when it comes to having the violence be brought to less less as possible, the better. So we're putting gun violence on the ballot. I have already told individuals who are running, who also are inside as those who are actually in office now. If they don't stand with families of who I work with, they will be called out of not standing with the families. And we're going to make sure that they do not get voted back again because the violence is destroying every fabric of this country and even Chicago widespread.
And you find that the low bonds and repeat offenders being let out on the street is a problem in all over the country, not only here. that's why you have to address it at the federal level. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we have to address it on all levels, but I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get it done. So if I have to go before, we already told my families we're going to go to Washington D.C. to testify before the congressional hearing that Dick Durbin is the chairman over that arena, that level. So we're prepared to do whatever it takes to get this done and have the bonds on the table as an alternative to try to do a drastic decline, and we believe that will happen instantaneously if individuals that have these uh, patterns of crime that they can be stopped by putting them into court and into jail, put them in jail, and go before a judge, and then go through the due process like everyone else. But to allow someone that has a history of violence is crazy because they're gonna go. They have a pattern already of shooting up people. So we have to protect our own. We have to protect our children. We've seen several names like Amari Jones, Micaiah James, 3-year-old. You see Jalen, who was at McDonald's. There's several names. There's several children that have been murdered. And it just doesn't make any kind of sense that you have a chief judge that sits in the seat of the highest court in Cook County and can't see the names that's stacking up like sardines or like bread on the shelf. So we're going to just be very vocal and very, very determined and very poised in our strategies to go about trying to make sure that these names are not added to the list.
Have you been able to get an audience with the Chief Judge Timothy Evans at all?
Have I contacted with him? No, I have not contacted with him. I would like to meet with him. That'll be ideal because the fact is, uh, um, he doesn't. Obviously, he does not understand what we are living in and the time we're living in. So it's important that we bring our families before these individuals to have the direct influence in decision making to hear what they have to say because of the fact they must be living in another world or another time zone. But what I see every day in my community, the gun violence and the shed of blood spilling into the street, it's horrendous and it's heartbreaking. I'm tired of seeing these mothers grieving. I'm tired of seeing these funeral homes. Every weekend we see these processions of funerals packed with families from these violence. I'm tired of seeing hashtag. I'm tired of seeing GoFundMe. I'm tired of seeing news media out breaking news, a child murdered. I'm just tired of the violence. So that we have to do whatever we can to do just as quickly as possible to put everyone on notice that there has to be immediate change about the violence in Chicago.
Are you working, law enforcement, and it's my understanding they're very frustrated about this as well. Are you working with them, and are you also working together with families of victims of gun violence?
Good question. We are in contact with the Chicago Police Department. Actually, we are supposed to be hosting our second briefing meeting with regards to our last meeting, having families sitting down with them. We met with the key deputies in all the different departments our first initiative last year, and we're due for another one at this point. So due to the surge in COVID-19, we have to do probably virtual. But we are in very much contact with the department about what it is that we need to do to discuss and what's not working. We've been advocating for having families that have not had justice at this point, where the cases are still outstanding. We're requesting that there be a liaison an attitude the detective level to give families updates about what's going on with their case because a lot of families right now have not had any answers or no information about who did their loved one. It's just very, very sad. So we've been very much contact with the department about trying to get some results on that level. As far as the families, yes, we have a list of families. It's a fraternity that no one wants to be part of, and I'm a part of that fraternity. My nephew was murdered in 2012. That makes 9 years this past December, on December 25th. This year he'll make 10 years murdered in the violence. So that's why I became adamant and advocate of this problem ever since the spike of the 500 plus names that have been shot up in 2012, and it's been ongoing uphill ever since my nephew was murdered.
So you have also advocated against. You're always advocating against gun violence. What are some solutions to end gun violence?
Well, the programs are the really staple of what it is in the community. You have existing programs such as mentoring programs. There needs to be traumatic. There needs to be programs as far as like families to give them jobs. Resources as far as training, mentorship, trades. Health services. There's a list that when the community is struggling, there has to be where everything must be taken into consideration. So we have a list of everything that we would like to see happening. The programs consist of having the communities cleaned up. You have like broken glass, abandoned buildings. All these things are havens for the violence in the community. When gangs see that there is a no love or no family within the area, they take that territory over, and then that's when you see the widespread of violence. So we're looking to have where these areas in the community, particularly on the south side and the west side of Chicago, be refurbished, things be redone, and adding programs, and then to shore up programs that are existing right now that needs resources to expand that program, like violence interpreters. Someone that specializes in trying to deal with individuals to give them to talk about the issues that they're having beef or grief with. A lot of times there's situations where people have fights and things of that sort, so they go out and just get guns and start shooting each other. So there's violence interpreter programs that's necessary. There's also programs that need as far as giving families the tools like job training, housing, better housing, schooling, after-school programs, things that we grew up on when we were younger. We had things to do. Well, you have these kids outside in the community, they have nothing to do. They're on the streets hanging out. So more hanging out, more leads to more of the violence. We don't have opportunity, when you don't have resources, you don't have mentorship, you have all the fathers locked up in jail because of silly crimes that they've been to commit, and then having them nothing of no direction. That's all recipe for the spike of the violence in the community.
Are there any organizations or individuals that you know of that are addressing these problems that are at least starting to do something about this?
Well, there are several organizations. I don't necessarily work with a lot of them. I know Per Purpose of Preparing, they're a good organization. Violence Interpreters, I know they are good for violence interpreting. Saints of Bina, that's another good organization. Of course, it's a religious organization, but they do good work as well. So everyone, it's all hands on deck type of thing. So whatever positivity that can be done in the community is great. And I did see another program where there was an artist that is taking his artwork and then taking children and making them artists and showing the different ways to do art to develop some craftsmanship in their work and young children to give them something to do. That's the type of program that's necessary. We need community centers, things of that sort, to give community. If I'm looking to build myself, is to build a community center in Chicago or different areas where a lot of the pilots to get things that for the community. So there's a list of things that needs to be done. I mean, we'll be all day talking about it, but that we need to start there. So the more of the resources available, the better.
So to accomplish your goal, what are the greatest challenges? What stands in the way of what you're trying to accomplish, and how do you address these issues?
What stands in the way is pretty much the resources available. That's been a problem for years. So the violence has not just started, not just in 2021, or did not just get to the Gold Coast and violence just became a problem. This has been an ongoing problem for years, decades. So now, since now the Gold Coast is being affected, now everyone talks about the violence, and I shake my head to that because my community has been impoverished and been in turmoil for so long, and now it seems to be everyone's talking about the violence now. So that it's really it's really really a problem. It's disheartening to hear people talk about it now, but I can't really fault that. But I just still got to continue to move forward with it and try to find a way to address it.
We see that you do a lot of advocacy during the day, and then you work at night. So
Yeah.
how are you able to manage? What is your strength to keep going and do the good work that you do?
Well, it's a love for activism. It's a love to try to make a difference. It's a love to try to save lives and do wherever I can. So I really can't tell you where I get it from, but I guess the Almighty really have a plan for the work I do. I don't know where I get the strength from. I don't know where I get the determination from. It just got to be within you. It just got to be something about you. Just get something that you live, eat, breathe, and want to do something to make a difference. So I just believe in trying to do whatever I can to assist and try to make a difference.
And
Okay.
yeah, with all that you've done so far, is there any progress that you have seen that you could share with us?
Yeah, I got to let this one my last question because I got to get back to work.
Okay.
Yeah, there's progress. Of course, with this more of the families coming together, I think that's the biggest progress right now. We're seeing a lot of families that we have been seeing unite with us. But we have a big following about this, and people are now waking up to the problems that we're seeing. So that'll be the greatest accomplishment right now. I believe people now taking this more as serious than they did ever before now.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Michael Ben Yosef. We see you online all the time, being an
Yes.
advocate against the systematic problem, the
Yes.
systemic problem of that you mentioned. And wish you the best, and thank you so much for
Thank you so
being a
much for
guest
having
on
me.
Community Unity Now.
Thank you so much. Thank you, and you have a nice evening.
You too. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye bye. We also want to thank the founder of Community Unity Now, Reverend Catherine Brown D. Tikkun, for giving us this platform to bring community activists work to you, the viewers, so that you could see that there are so many individuals that are dedicated to helping improve our community, and in order for to improve the community, there has to be unity, and we try our best to find Community Unity Now for you.
And with our variety of guests and subjects over the years of doing D-Tycoon Community Unity Now, I think we've really brought people together to make a difference and raised awareness for the issues that need to be taken care of in our city and beyond.
Yes, and since we have a little bit of time, I just want to mention that if you could help us find a young woman that's missing in Rogers Park. Her name is Sheena L. Gibbs, and she has been missing since November 3rd, 2021. And she's about 40 years old, black with shoulder-length black hair, brown eyes, and all she wanted to do was go to Davenport, Iowa, to take care of her mother, who's in the hospital. And she spoke with her relatives and told them she'll be in Davenport the next day. And that was the last that they ever heard or saw of Sheena L. Cobbs. So
that was about 2 months ago.
Yes, she disappeared on November either 3rd or November 23rd. I can't remember now. It's either November 3rd or November 23rd of 2021.
So keep your eyes out, please. We've been putting it online, her picture and the information on our Rogers Park News public Facebook group, on the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce page. Everything Rogers Park and citywide. because we don't have a missing persons registry that we need, and we've fought for that as well in the past. And we need to raise awareness and find these missing persons.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and our guest, Rabbi Michael Ben Yosef, he has also been advocating to bring more awareness to the missing Black women and girls. They do not get enough press attention, and we were very surprised that it was only now that a friend of Sheena L. Gibbs told us about her case being a missing person case. It never even appeared on our radar, and we're always trying to spread awareness about anything that's going on in Rogers Park, especially if something as important as a missing person. We always want to get the word out there so that more of the community could help us find the person, hopefully safely, and bring them back home.
And there were two questions I wanted to ask Rabbi, and I'll just state them right now, so maybe we can talk about them in the comments, because this is on YouTube, and this will be shared all over social media as well. Why are missing persons registries important to you, Rabbi? And what does an improved missing persons registry look like? And what kind of work have you put in? What would you like to see with a missing persons registry citywide?
Yes, since you mentioned that, Bill, we would love to know if the young Black women and girls that are missing, have you seen their names in the missing persons registries? Because I know that you've tried to bring attention to their names and the circumstances of their murders, so that if there were serial killers that are responsible for their being missing, or the murder victims, there are a whole bunch of about 75 women and girls Black women and girls that are actually dead, and that might be victims of serial killers. Do you know if the missing and maybe the ones that were later found as murder victims, were they on the missing person registry? And how could we improve the missing person registry for the Black women, the Black females that do not get get as much press attention as white females that go missing or are murdered?
Yes, there's so much work to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for watching D-Tycoon, Community Unity Now. Looking forward to coming weeks and more guests and subjects.
Mm-hmm. Yes, more information for you, more material to make the community more unified now.